with any sport comes injuries, and you're always going to get injured in the sport. So you can make the body strong, but at the same time, there will be injuries.
Currently, how long does it take someone to go from a white belt to blue belt?
Usually it's taking people around about to go from white to blue.
You're grappling or you're striking, it's great, but if you want to punch harder, be quicker, recover better, this is how the program can help you.
One of the obstacles I see, especially with people first starting out in jiu-jitsu, white belts, blue belts, they go into training and a lot of the academies or coaches are lacking structure.
Hey Ben, thanks for joining us today on the Vitals Expert Series. This is our fourth episode that we've done. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, and how you ended up here in Bangkok?
Thanks for having me, Charlie. So my name's Benjamin Naylor. I'm creator of Beyond Boundary Strength and Conditioning, where we specialize in helping combat athletes reach peak performance. I'm also a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so I teach jiu-jitsu. So yeah, that's pretty much me.
What is Beyond Boundaries?
Beyond Boundaries is a company that I created over 10 years ago. And essentially, we take combat athletes on board and we help them reach a higher level of performance.
What kind of athletes?
Combat athletes.
So like mixed martial arts, like jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, it can be any kind of martial arts.
Any type of martial arts.
And they come to you specifically because they're looking for ways to improve like strength and conditioning, kind of anything outside of the ring, you could say, right?
Exactly. We don't teach them how to fight. They already know that.
Yeah.
We increase their performance, make them stronger, more powerful, better conditioning.
So it's performance-based programming.
Exactly.
Okay. How long is a typical program and how does it generally work?
So the least amount of time we work with someone is for 12 weeks. And then usually the people we work with would stay on board for 6 months, some 9 months, some will be on board for 1 to 2 years. It really depends on the person. The longer the better, because then we can help them develop to a higher level. But the least amount of time is 3 months.
And I guess like focusing on combat sports, it's quite a niche market, right? I mean, It's growing with the UFC popularity and just hobbyists taking up jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, boxing, grappling, all these kind of different sports. What made you choose to focus on combat performance specifically?
Yeah, so I've always trained combat sports from a young age. And when I first started my personal training career, I started working in a mixed martial arts academy. And then I was watching the fighters train, the boxers, the Muay Thai guys. And I was kind of watching them train thinking, how could we make them faster? How could we give them better agility, better conditioning? And that's where I developed, I wouldn't say an obsession, but I was very intrigued on how to increase performance.
Would you say that a lot of, say, combat artists, they because they're so focused on their craft in terms of fighting, they sometimes neglect the training and the performance part, and so that's why they need someone like you, where you could come in and educate them on, yes, you're grappling or you're striking, it's great, but if you want to punch harder, be quicker, recover better, this is how the program can help you.
Exactly. Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems with combat athletes is they get injured a lot,
and that's due to them maybe not being their performance or their training outside of the fighting or the ring, not being kind of optimal.
Exactly, yeah. And one of the things I would say is when you're training martial arts, you tend to do the same stuff over and over and over again, which means you overdevelop certain muscles and then certain muscles are underdeveloped. And that's where it creates an imbalance. So with the strength conditioning programs that we run, we look at what their weaknesses are and their strengths, and then we work around that. So
there's also almost an injury prevention method to it.
That's the first thing we focus on, is preventing injuries. After that, we increase performance.
And you said that you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Did you also compete at some point? Did you come from a competitive background? Is that how you can relate to your clients now?
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the only reasons why I started training martial arts, is because it gave me the opportunity to compete, because I wanted to challenge myself. And I was playing football before competitively and had a serious knee injury. So then I went into combat sports and been competing over the last 10 to 12 years. You
said you had a knee injury. So interesting, going back to that, your recovery, did you see that when you're doing martial arts, or were you doing jiu-jitsu specifically, did your training help recover your knee faster and kind of help you prevent injuring yourself again, so where you couldn't do it in combat sports?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the training I do in the gym is based around making my body strong so that when I go on the mats, I can handle the impact, I can be at a better level. But with any sport comes injuries.
Yeah.
And you're always going to get injured in the sport, no matter what you do with your S&C. So you can make the body strong, but at the same time, there will be injuries in the sport.
Going back to my first question, I asked kind of, how did you end up in Thailand? Is it because, obviously, maybe not Bangkok, but Phuket specifically is a huge destination for fighters, mixed martial artists to go train for upcoming fights, or even hobbyists that want to get and learn more about the sport. Is that the reason why you chose Thailand specifically? Or how did you end up in Thailand? And how do you find running your type of business in Thailand?
Yeah, so originally I came to Thailand just to travel. I wanted to get away from home, and I also wanted to step away from my business because I was spending a lot of time on it, and I felt like I just needed to step back and get a better overview of what I wanted in my life. And then after spending 6 months in Thailand, I was like, I love it here. The weather's good, great value for money, great for networking, especially Bangkok. And then obviously you have all the fighter side of things here, especially in Phuket. You get so many great athletes coming through. So
some of the best athletes in the world would go and train in Phuket before a fight.
Exactly.
I'm thinking you have AKA, Tiger, Bang Tao, those kind of gyms where they're affiliated with UFC, ONE, and I think Bellator as well.
Exactly, yeah.
So did you spend time in Phuket as well?
Yeah, I spent 3 months there.
And then what made you make the decision from going from Phuket to Bangkok?
Phuket was good, but I got a little bit bored there.
Yeah.
And I felt like, especially with the fighters, it was very political there. So for example, all the gyms are competing against each other. So if you work with one athlete in one of the gyms.
So you pigeonhole yourself.
Yeah. You can't necessarily go around and work with different types of athletes. So you kind of have to be in one place and stay within that team, which doesn't really work for me.
So being in Bangkok, you take a step away out of that environment, and then you could go and down at any time you want, but you could join different teams for short periods of time to add some value, hopefully, to the team, or kind of do some kind of cross training with them.
Gives you more flexibility, more freedom.
And then obviously, Vitals, we're a supplement and vitamin platform. Do you recommend like supplements and vitamins to your clients? Do you take any yourself? If so, are you against taking them? What are kind of your views on supplements and vitamins? What do you take personally? And then what would you recommend to, say, your combat arts clients?
So the first thing I would always tell my clients is make sure that they have a solid diet plan. Yeah. Make sure you're getting your proteins, your vegetables, your carbohydrates, your healthy fats. And then once all your nutrition plan is solid, then we would look to add on to that with some supplements.
So you wouldn't say a supplement's not a replacement for real food. It's more an enhancement to it.
Exactly.
So you wouldn't say, for example, taking fish oils or protein, just whey protein is not good enough. You should be having some chicken as well with that as well. And then you take maybe a whey protein shake to increase the protein for the daily intake of the protein.
100%.
So what would you take?
So we start with my clients. I would always advise them to have a multivitamin, fish oil.
Why a fish oil?
Because most people's diets lack omega-3. Because they don't eat enough fish. So I would always say supplement with omega-3.
So supplement a mix with omega-3. How about whey or creatine or pre-workout, those kind of supplements?
Yeah, so I would suggest a whey protein, also creatine supplement, depending on what they're training. If they're training for hypertrophy or strength or martial arts, then definitely creatine. Yeah, they're the main ones.
So there's with whey, I noticed that some people have a different point of view. So, there's the smoothies or the shakes where they put in a whey and they act as a kind of a meal replacement, where people get confused. They're thinking that, I'm just having a shake. But in reality is they're having, a banana, some milk, they're having whey, and then maybe some berries. And all of a sudden you're consuming 600 calories, right? I think when we went to Boost the other day, we were kind of curious to see what are actually the calories in one of these drinks, where people, then there's the other side where you just have protein and water. What are your views on kind of like having that as a meal replacement instead of having getting a real source of protein, or just kind of having a real source of protein and then having kind of just a water mixed with a protein?
I think it depends on the person's goals. If they're training for fat loss, I would suggest just water and whey protein. If they're aiming for muscle gain, I would suggest adding some carbohydrates to the shake as well. And then I would always tell my clients post-training, have a whey protein shake. Because it would help with muscle repair. And there's I always say, within 20 minutes of training, get a protein shake in. It will increase the rate of muscle repair, so you won't lose your gains. And then I would also suggest having the whey protein as a meal replacement if you're really busy and you're not going to get the opportunity to make a meal. And if it's going to stop you from going long periods without food, then I would definitely suggest.
So for a convenience point of view.
Yeah.
And then I guess like you mentioned, so you're doing the combat stuff, you're training jiu-jitsu, obviously the New Year's just happened. Do you have any plans for 2025 of, kind of expanding your business or introducing new kind of concepts? What are kind of your plans for the year coming ahead?
So my plan is to continue to work with combat athletes, keep growing my online platform where I can work with people from all over the world. I have a platform where they can work with me from a distance. I can design all their plans, guide them in the right way so they can get results from their home or their gym. Also, I have a plan now to start to develop programs for jiu-jitsu fighters. So one of the obstacles I see, especially with people first starting out in jiu-jitsu, white belts, blue belts, they go into training and a lot of the academies, and I'm not trying to shit on the academies here, because there's a lot of great academies, a lot of great coaches. But I still feel like there's a lot of the academies or coaches are lacking structure. And especially when you're a white belt or you're a blue belt, you definitely need structure in order to progress and develop.
Yeah, I think there's a stat that 90% of people that start jiu-jitsu give up or quit within the first 3 months. And then I think once you go from blue belt to purple belt, again, it's kind of 80% of those people, once they get a blue belt, they don't progress on to purple belt.
Exactly.
And so you feel like that's kind of a structural issue within the kind of the academy system, or what do you think the main issue is that you'd want to solve in it?
The main issue is just giving structure.
So kind of giving people like a plan and, or goals, like short-term goals of how you can go from, say, white belt to blue belt, and then blue belt to purple belt in a structured and organized way.
Definitely.
Currently, how long does it take someone to go from a white belt to blue belt?
Well, it depends on how much they train. A full-time athlete will progress a lot quicker because they're training twice a day, 6 days a week. Someone who's just training for a hobby might be training 3 to 4 times a week. They're going to progress a lot slower. Usually it's taking people around about 1.5 to 2 years to go from white to blue. But with structure and the right training program, I believe you can go from white to blue in six months to a year.
So there's a gym in Phuket that they do a white to blue in 3 months. Do you believe that's achievable, or that's realistic?
I think it's achievable, definitely.
Because I guess if you're saying that it takes usually a year to a year and a half, assuming you have consistent training, then I mean, say the average person let's go with the average person in 18 months, they might train twice a week, 3 times, let's call it 3 times a week, wherever you're increasing your amount of training. It's the same hours on the mats, essentially, right? So that you can achieve that same goal in a shorter period of time, as long as you're putting in the time and effort and sticking to a structured plan. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
100%. Yeah.
And then you'd say it's the same from white to blue as well?
From white to blue or blue to purple?
Sorry, blue to purple.
Yeah. I think you could, with the same amount of time spent on the mats, but just working on more advanced things in terms of techniques and methods, I definitely think you could go from a blue to a purple, maybe a little bit longer. Maybe you're looking at 8 months to a year or just over a year. You can go from blue to purple.
And then how do you find the progression from going from purple to brown and then brown to black? How would you then find that progression?
Everybody's kind of developing their own. When they get to purple, people are towards the end of blue belt, you kind of got your game and you start to develop your own path in jiu-jitsu with your own techniques. So yeah, that could take a little bit longer for sure.
And then I guess, obviously as you go further and further, it kind of becomes more subjective, and it's kind of, like you said, you're developing your game, and then probably it depends how quickly you can learn like the new skill sets that are kind of involved with it, right? And so it's a sport that's always adapting as well, right? There's always new kind of elements that are being added to it.
For sure. The sport is developing, it's growing, the level's getting higher.
Yeah.
New techniques are constantly coming out. So
that's great. So you want to increase your S&C performance business. Yeah. You're looking to launch some programs specifically in the jiu-jitsu field. Yeah. And is there anything else you want to achieve this year? Personal goals or anything else, work-wise, career-wise?
I want to start competing again.
Competing in jiu-jitsu?
In jiu-jitsu. Okay. I want to get back into competition, 100%.
Be your first competition we can find you at?
There's one in March.
Okay, whereabouts?
Grappling Industries. It's in Bangkok. So yeah, going to look to compete. It's been a while.
We'll look forward to seeing you there then.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, I think that kind of wraps us up for today. Thanks for coming by, and we'll hopefully see you soon.
Pleasure. Thank you, Charlie.